Welcome back, everyone. My goodness, Archbishop, wasn't Father Dave and his staff they're doing a great job over there.
What a dynamo he is, huh?
I remember when those parishes were struggling for their very existence, and they're coming to life. That reminds us that God is guiding this church of ours.
Yeah. It's a church reborn over and over and over again, and not just in territory, but in the hearts of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, now sometimes we reserve the third segment of the show for kind of a teaching segment.
Yeah, I'm so happy for this.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about the key topic in this year's Why Catholic program. We're in the 4th year of Why Catholic, and the topic this year is the moral teachings of the church, and that means we're talking about the social work of the church, the social teachings, the moral teachings, sin, virtue, forgiveness, lots of important theological topics. When I was growing up, I thought about sin and virtue as like the good angel on my shoulder telling me what to do right, and the bad devil on my other shoulder telling me what to do wrong, and that's a little bit childish, but that's how it begins for some of us. Talk to us first. Catholics are taught to do what's right, more than just to avoid sin. It's about doing what's right. So talk to me.
Your example, though, is not a bad one, Brian, because I think at the basis of all of this is decision.
Okay.
It's decision for Christ. And the one thing that we all know is in the span of our lives, we make a lot of decisions. And virtue is really about cultivating what I think in common language we would call a good habit. And when you do something over and over again, we know that becomes habit forming, just like bad habits, sadly, do the same thing. So a virtue we'll be learning about is really a good habit. It's inspired by the gift of the Holy Spirit, the grace of the Holy Spirit, and the power. We have the capacity in our own lives of doing good things over and over again, and they become evident to people. So when you and I do things that are acts of charity, we all of a sudden become known as charitable people.
Virtuous people.
Virtuous people. That's exactly right. And so I think I think we got right to the core of it, that we're talking about the decisions that people make, and freedom needs to be used well for good decisions, so that we can uncover what was really the call of Jesus. He wants us to have life, and life in abundance, and that's the life of virtue.
Very good.
Yeah.
Of course, our catechism, our teachings of the church help us to learn about virtues in some categories, maybe. And so the first category is the cardinal virtues.
Well, and here we are in Louisville.
There you go.
So the
cardinal virtues.
The cardinal virtues, or what's also known as the human virtues, because the word cardinal at its root means hinge, and so they were seen even to a time before Christ, because these virtues have their basis within creation, that we all know we're made in God's image and likeness. These are virtues that, again, with God's help, with God's grace, we can cultivate what is good within our lives. The Roman philosophers talked about these 4 cardinal virtues. I think we know them very well. The great cardinal virtues that would be of prudence, of justice, of fortitude, and of temperance. And they are kind of like 4 legs on a table for human virtue. Yeah.
Okay, we got theological ones too, though.
Yeah, we do. Now, I'll say something about the human ones in what each of them is, if I could.
Good, please.
I think it would be good to know that that prudence, sometimes people think, well, prudence means not doing anything, avoiding doing anything wrong. No, prudence means to have the gift of making good decisions, of seeking to make good decisions. So prudence is a right attitude towards life. Following that is the gift of justice, which I guess we could say is, what does it mean to be fair? In a deeper way, justice means having a right relationship. So a just relationship means that I'm in a right relationship with God. I don't consider myself the creator. I'm a creature. I'm in the right relationship with other people, that I treat each person with dignity. And even with myself, I have a healthy understanding that despite sin, God has created me as good. And so we have those two areas. And then we have the great gift of fortitude or courage and temperance, of kind of doing things in a balanced way.
You know, you could teach on those a long time because we need to know this. It's such a positive a part of our teaching. Okay, the other set of virtues.
Yeah, theological, because they are clearly gifts from God. And I think most people know faith, hope, and charity. Faith, a gift from God that allows us both to believe in God and believe what God has revealed. And boy, to live a life with faith is a great gift. We don't wander through life. Hope is a natural next step. It's that ability to be able to look to a bright future, to trust that God is guiding. Now, sometimes people say, well, that means being an optimist. Well, no, because it means sometimes trusting God in the midst of trials, difficulties, the death of a loved one, difficulties in our lives. And then charity. That gift, I think St. Paul said in first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13, it's one that we all love. Love is patient, etc. And he says, faith, hope, and charity, all things, these are the three. But the greatest of these is charity. God is love.
You know, I can't imagine someone going through their life without that message to guide them. Yeah. You know, you can't talk about virtue, Archbishop, unfortunately, really, to learn it without talking about sin.
Yeah.
And sin is not just not doing what's right. Can you just a little bit of time?
Yeah, well, and of course, sin, we know that despite us being made in God's image and likeness, original sin has entered our life, and we make bad choices.
We're not perfect.
Let's face it. And I love that the Old Testament approach to sin was the word hamartia, and it comes from the view of an archer, kind of having an arrow that misses the mark. And so whereas virtue hits the mark, sin swerves off and misses the mark. It's almost frustrating what is God's plan.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, if we miss the mark, though, how do we become reconciled?
Reconciliation,
how do we
right?
reconcile ourselves?
Yeah, because isn't that the message of Jesus Christ?
Forgiveness?
Come to me. Forgiveness. The sacrament of reconciliation. Here we are in the month of November, a time when we're getting ready for the season of Lent, or excuse me, a season of Advent, a wonderful time to be reconciled. The sacrament of reconciliation is such a great gift that we have to be reconciled to Christ, to receive God's forgiveness, and to begin again.
Archbishop, thanks for teaching us.
Oh,
This
absolutely.
is a richness here that we could, of course, spend more time on. And thanks to all of you who have viewed this program today in these three segments. Blessed Thanksgiving season to everyone, and may God bless us always.
Thanks, Brian.